Hi, and welcome to Tech Talk. I'm Serge here with Arvig. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about web hosting. We get a lot of questions from people wondering, hey, how do I make my own website? How do I get started? What do I all need? Well, luckily the process is getting easier and easier and easier. But there's still, some tricks to it, some things you need to know. And no matter what, it's best to talk to an expert or get some help from other people if this is your first time. So why don't we get right into it and I'll show you what you need to do. To have your own website, you need a few things. Specifically, you need at least 3 things to have your website. Now, there's some additional or extras on top of that that can make having a website nicer or better, but there's 3 basic things you need before you're going to have a site online. Luckily, all those services can be provided by someone like Arvig. We do web hosting, so you can get a domain name, everything right from us, and I just have our web hosting page up here so you can see that. The 3 things you need, though, are going to be a domain name, and what that is it's also called a URL or a website address. We're talking arvig.com or google.com. Those are your domain names. For someone to find your site, you need to have a name, of course. The second thing you need is a website tool or some sort of content management system. They're called CMSs for short. Well, what's that? That's what you make your website in. Some popular ones back in the day were Dreamweaver and Microsoft Publisher. Those tend not to be used quite as much, or if something like Dreamweaver is used, it's used by a very big business for professional purposes. A little bit more complicated, but much more powerful. I'm going to show you some examples of one called WordPress. It can be free. You can also pay for it. It's easy. It's all web-based, so if you have a browser, you can edit it. And one by Google called Blogger. Now, don't be confused. Even though it's called Blogger, you can do things other than making blogs with it. You can make a whole website with it. Same with WordPress. WordPress used to be very well known for making blogs and other sort of newsy websites, but now it can be done to make anything. The last thing you need is a place to store all your files. You can't keep your files like the pictures and the text and everything else for your website on your own computer because then no one can access it. You need that stuff to be up on the cloud, up on the web. So you need someone that has server space and is willing to host your website. Exactly why it's called web hosting. Arvig can do that. Someone like GoDaddy is popular for that as well. There's tons of different services. It's hard to say who the best is. They all have their distinct advantages. What Arvig will bring to you is that we're local and we try to make everything super easy. But whoever works for best for you is who you're going to want to go with. So let's take the idea one step at a time. You know who your 3 tools are. Let's say you want to do your web hosting somewhere. You know you want to use WordPress, and you know you want your website name to be john.com. Well, let's use a tool like something on GoDaddy to find out if john.com is taken. If I type in john.com here and hit go, it'll go ahead and load up and say john.com is already taken. Well, who would have guessed that, right? Luckily, they'll give us some different choices. If we find a website name that we know is not taken, we can buy that domain name through whoever we're purchasing it from. Now, that's not something you buy and own forever. You do have to renew it either every year or every some months, whatever your contract is. Once you've gotten your domain name, then you're going to use your hosting service to host your files. And that's someone you have to work with very closely, whether you're using Blogger, WordPress, whatever tool, has to work very closely with the person you're hosting with. So let's take an example that you're hosting with Arvig. We say, sure, you can have this much space, a gigabyte or whatever you choose to go with. We upload all your files to our server. We give you a username and password, and then you can host your files on our server. You have to upload them every time you make a change to your website. So if I change my homepage to look a different, have a different picture, then I upload it to Arvig's server, and then the world can see it. I laid it out in a very basic way. That's the first few steps. There's a lot more to it. If you're interested in learning more, I suggest a simple class or talking to a friend who does more of it. Hey, thanks for watching Tech Talk. And remember, if you are interested in hosting a website, we can answer a lot of those questions for you. So why don't you give us a call at 888-99-ARVIG. Stop at one of our Arvig locations or go to arvig.com.